Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into the first edition in the year 2024 that myself and Robert Hagan are on the same show. Feels like we haven't done this in forever. Robert Hagan, man, what's going on?
You and I have seen each other in different capacities. We talked about this, but it's crazy to think it's been the week prior to a Vista tournament when
Yeah.
you and I last did the show together with area sports going on. You and I have been just crazy busy.
We had to make it a Monday show to make it happen. Robert has basketball tomorrow. Just so everybody else out there knows, next week will also be a Monday show because I will have basketball. Lewiston will be in their second round of district tournaments, whether it's a championship game or the loser out game. We'll see how all that goes on Friday. We're still waiting to get the official word on who Lewiston plays on Friday. That will all get decided tomorrow night. We'll talk about that in the second hour. We'll get into all sorts of stuff. Also, if you have not been following Bad Brackets, our other side YouTube show that started earlier this year, episode 6
5 or 6
came out earlier today. We've recorded a couple other ones, so I always get the numbers mixed up. But it's a day late, but it's the best Super Bowl moments of all time. It was recorded before this year's Super Bowl, obviously. So no 49ers and Chiefs highlights. Obviously made the bracket. Go check that out at Bad Brackets on YouTube. It was Robert Hagan, Harry Broadhurst, and Eric Watkins on that episode. It was a lot of fun. And I will tell you right now, all three of them pushed my buttons for over an hour.
Well, what's funny about it is you start the show with us is the three unwise men. So you brought it on yourself.
I didn't tell any lies there. For those that are here that want to get our take on the Super Bowl, that'll happen at the bottom of the hour. We'll get into everything we thought of as Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs once again are Super Bowl champions. In the second hour, we'll hit all the high school stuff. We'll get into all of the district tournaments, all of the playoff stuff that's going on for girls and boys. Obviously, girls are done on Lewiston's side, but Clarkson just getting started. Lewiston boys getting underway as well. Daytona 500 is this weekend. We'll talk some baseball. We'll talk some golf. We'll get into all the other sports. Top of the second hour, we'll have senior Sam Stockton from the LCSC men's basketball team joining the show. But we have to start off this show with a first-time guest. It's been a long time coming, but we finally are able to get the LCSC women's head coach, Caelyn Orlandi, on the show. Caelyn, how are you doing?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
We're doing great. Did you watch the Super Bowl by chance? If so, what'd you think of it?
I did not watch the Super Bowl.
That's okay. That's fine. You could have skipped the halftime show like Robert wanted to, apparently. We'll talk more about that as things get going. Robert just continues to show his age. But before we get into it, we get into the season at large and your first year as the head coach. We just got to get it out there. Again, this is your first time on this show. You hear so many people that know you over the years, and you're not Caelyn, you're not Orlandi, you're not even coach. You're Goose. So explain the Goose nickname and where that came from.
I've been Goose since the 3rd grade, so it's been a long time nickname. When I came to college, I thought it was going to be a good time to retire it, but Coach Orr introduced me to the team as Goose, and so then it stuck. Then I went from playing to coach, so then I'm coaching the girls I played with, so I was still Goose, and it's just it's a cycle, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've embraced it at this point.
It just rolls with it. Now you're coaching at your alma mater. Tell us, how does it feel to be coaching and being from a player now being the Warrior head coach?
It's a special thing. LC really is special, and I think playing under Brian was truly a special thing there. And what we did as a team, multiple different teams, it was truly special. But being able to coach where your whole, life, after high school, everything started there. So I can't express how special it really is because it's kind of can't put it into words, but it's a remarkable thing.
So then you go from a player under Brian Orr to an assistant coach with Brian, and now you succeed him. Just kind of talk about that progression for you. What have you learned from him, and what kind of things have you changed yourself here now, kind of being out there on your own? Obviously, a lot of the things you take from him, and a lot of things he took from you as an assistant coach, and you really helped, recruit a lot of these girls. But what have you learned from Brian over the years?
I've learned so many things from Brian, but all it takes is one coach to really believe in you that completely changes everything. And I mean, start as a player in high school, I couldn't have been more than 115 pounds. I was skinny. I was quick, but I was just skinny. And so someone took a chance on me because he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And come to college, and I start playing just absolutely, just awesome basketball, but it's because of him. I mean, he knew what I needed to do, how I needed to play. And so really, I give all the credit to him to getting me as to the player I was. And then transitioning from player to coach is just, it's kind of crazy. I mean,
Mhm.
I got to learn coach or in a completely different way than I had got to know him the last 4 years. You get to know him on a more personal level, and working with him. And then the last, 4 years, really, I knew how he wanted to run the team. I knew what he wanted on the floor. And so I think that was a huge advantage going into being an assistant coach. There was plenty to learn. There's always plenty to learn. But that side of things, I knew what he wanted. So I was able to do that. And then, his basketball mind is just, he's one of the best. Highest winning percentage. He's just so good at what he does. And so every day, I kept a book, I kept everything, and I just was writing down things that he said that I just, you don't think about, or just things he's done so many times that have been working for us. So I got a bunch of Coach Orr stuff written down in my book, but we're running the same system. We're trying to run the floor, we're transitioning, we're doing those things. I'm recruiting the same type of players. So all that kind of stuff's the same. It's just a little different age gap between Brian and me. So things are a little different there.
So you talked about how pretty much he molded you into the player you are and all that. So how did, when you saw things, how was it on the floor as an assistant? If you were seeing things, how open were you making suggestions to Brian, and with the conversations that happen not only in practices but during game times?
That's something I'm not going to, hey, first year, no, I wasn't saying anything. I had to refigure. It's a different relationship now. And it was finally, Caelyn, come on, give it to me. So I got more comfortable. And as the years go by, yeah, I got way more comfortable. And the first time I said Brian, I just felt so weird, but I said it, and so it was just getting used to it. But then, yes, I gave advice, did all that.
Well, one of the things that I've always found really interesting is the transition that people have from player to coach. Not everyone can do it. Not everyone can do it successfully. A lot of the people that think they can really just should not be coaches, and for whatever they don't have that mindset or just the right connections. What is it about you where you knew that that's what you wanted to do when your playing career was done?
Honestly, I didn't know what I was gonna do. My first 2 years, I went to, come to LC. I think I'm gonna be a physician's assistant, and I think I'm gonna be an occupational therapist. And then I'm running basketball camp into my junior year. And Brian looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing? You need to be a basketball coach." That's my that's my
Yeah.
big moment. That's my moment. And so I go, "Okay, yeah, let's do it." And I was gonna come back after I graduated just to help the team. At that point, Aubrey, now Henry, was coming back. I was just gonna get my master's degree, help volunteer, whatever I could do, get my foot in the door. And Aubrey ended up taking a job down in Utah at Utah Valley. And coach called me in July. "You want to be my assistant coach?" So kind of slid in there, kind of one of those right place, right time moments. But I think too, I don't have a huge background, but I would guess, hey, being a point guard and going into coaching I think would be ideal. The
Yeah.
point guard, you got to know your team, you got to know what everybody's doing. You have to see the floor, and I think that was a huge advantage for me.
I think the big thing that I'm seeing is you came from the standpoint of being that assistant and looking for girls and going and traveling. How is it now? Some of these girls that you helped look for and recruit, now you're the main person that these guys are looking up to.
Yeah, it's I feel like I've gone through all the different, being player and then coach. I mean, your relationships change a little bit. You were teammates with somebody you're coaching now. And like you're saying, the kids I recruited, now I'm head coach. And the best thing about that though is all the team. They accepted it. They're the ones that bought, you got to I didn't change our culture. I didn't change any of those things. I have a remarkable team full of remarkable players who, it's all about earning trust, and we've had that trust. We've had that relationship already between each other. And
Mhm.
I think I have changed things. We've done a few different things, so I think it's kind of just been exciting for everybody.
So let's talk about that. You guys 21-2 on the year, 17-1 in conference, 13 straight wins, a lot of really tough competition in the Cascade conferences. There always is. But just kind of talk about this team and how they've performed. We'll start like with Callie Stevens, obviously two-time Cascade Player of the Year. You've seen her as an assistant coach, now as a head coach. How much do you rely on her and her leadership? And just what do you see on the floor that just makes her so special?
Callie is one of those just truly special offensive players. She has the ability to score at all levels of the floor, meaning she can get to the rack, she can pull up for a jump shot. She's an excellent three-point shooter. But you know what, Callie is always in the gym. Callie's always perfecting her art. She's perfecting her craft. She's trying to be better every single day. And we run an offense that I think really capitalizes on everybody's strengths. Everybody's going to get a bite of the apple, to say. And, it's just letting her go and being the player she is. And she's so quick. She pushes the ball so well in transition. And we have one of the top four transition breaks in the whole country. And, she's spearheading that. The team's got to run, but she's pushing the ball, and she's just truly a special scorer.
You've got a very good special core group of women there. Let's talk a little bit about one of your other main threats for this team and a little bit about her injury, Maddie Holm. What can you tell us about Maddie?
Yeah, Maddie Holm is just one of those special people that every team needs. And if you don't have one, she's our glue. She was our glue girl. Was voted captain by every single one of her teammates. She is just truly a genuine human being, and Maddie Holm just works. She gives 110% at every single thing she does. She's the first one to offer congratulations. She's the first one to help someone up. She's the first one, to give positive words of advice, and she's our leader. She was our leader, and she still is. You still hear her talking on the sidelines, and she's just one of those special people. And we really miss Maddie Holm. We really do. I mean, just her rebounding alone is just remarkable. What she does, I mean, rebounding, I believe, is an effort stat. It's an effort stat. And before she went out, she's almost averaging a double-double. She just works for it. She just has to work so hard for it. And so to see Maddie Holm go down was just, it hurts your heart. It hurts your heart. It's sad for her senior year. It's sad for the team, but she's still there. Her presence is still there. And the other girls have done an excellent job stepping up in her absence. And we've just had to refigure things out again.
And I appreciate the transition there, because that's where I wanted to really look at. Obviously, we look at Callie and Ellie being fantastic as a great 1-2 punch. Maddie was before she got hurt. As you said, she was the glue there. And then obviously Peyton getting hurt earlier on in the year. But you look at this roster, and if you just look at, seniors and juniors compared to some of the underclassmen, it's a very young squad that you have right now with the Warriors, and you wouldn't feel that way with the way that they're playing on the floor, and they gel really well as a team. With some of those injuries that you guys have suffered through this year and not missing that step, just kind of talk about some of that young talent you have on this team and who's really been stepping up behind the scenes that we don't really get to see on the box score right now.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I feel like we've had to do, rebuild a couple of times. And I don't say rebuild, but you lose Peyton and you lost a point guard, so we got to figure things out. You lose Maddie, we lost a forward, so yeah, we got to figure things out. But that sophomore class is a special class. they're really good. They got players at every position that we need. And then our 3 freshmen, Darian Herring is a special basketball player. She's a point forward. She is the 3rd on our team in assists, and that's coming from the 4 and the 5 spot. That's coming from a forward. And she's just a remarkable athlete. And Tatum Brager, she's just a knockdown shooter. She comes in, she's hit 7 threes once this year. She hit 4 for 4 this weekend, and they're doing great. I mean, you got just at the beginning of the year, you got to figure out how to play together, figure out those things, and I got to figure out rotations. But yes, our sophomore class, got to talk about Satara Bird.
Mm-hmm.
She's another one of those just workers. I mean, she's a Maddie Holmes. She gets after it. We keep track of practice stats, and she leads the team in rebounding by almost 125. I mean, she's going every single time. It's just remarkable. So exciting things for all those young players, exciting things for our future for sure.
You say future, and you look at this club, and you look at the roster from where everybody's at. A lot of these girls are all from around the Pacific Northwest and very, very close. Do you see yourself spreading out a little bit this next season with you being a head coach? And where do we go looking for new talent going a little bit farther into the next couple of years?
Well, we went really far so far and went across the bridge. We got
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So that start things off there. But hey, the Pacific Northwest has players. I mean, I'm not trying to fix something that's not broken, you know. And so the AAU circuit, travel basketball has really changed. There used to be just a ton of tournaments over here on this side, on the west side. There's a huge tournament in Portland. And now you go to Roseville, California, you go to Chicago, Illinois, and it gets really, I don't know, spread out far, and it gets hard for us to go to those places. And so we're still trying to hit all the local tournaments around the area, and, all about connections. Recruiting's all about connections, who you know too. So keeping that rolling. I love our team. I love the Pacific Northwest basketball. Oregon basketball is good, and so is Washington for sure.
Hit on recruiting just a little bit more. Obviously, as an NAIA school, a lot of recruits are trying to look for NCAA first. How do you make those connections to try to convince a player that an NAIA school like Lewis Clark State might be the better fit for them?
That is the question, because we still try to figure that out. No, it is hard though. I mean, the NCAA dream, it's a big dream. It's a big thing. And with social media, it's the big deal, My line is we're trying to win national championships. I mean, yes, we want to win our conference tournament. Yes, we want to win that. But our goals, we have big goals. We want to, we're going to compete at the national level, and we want to get back to that national championship game. So, it comes down to, I mean, truly though, what that recruit wants, what they want to do, how they're getting pushed, or if they aren't getting pushed. But, we intend to lose a lot of recruits to like Central Washington and NU, those schools. So, but the ones that choose you, I mean, there's value in that, to the ones that want to come and push to come and want to be here. That's part of the deal too.
And then before we look at the rest of this season, just to kind of hit on that recruiting thing, another issue that has been prevalent, I think, in college sports is how many players are transferring. And it seems like every sport gets hit by it every single year, helping out Alicia and just seeing the rosters completely change. And you go, okay, well, we're going to have these people back. And then you look at the roster and you're like, where did half of the people go? It hasn't seemed to be the case for the women's basketball team, where nobody's really transferring out. Is that because of you and Brian and the culture you guys have created? Or why do you think that really hasn't hit you guys as much as it has some of the other teams here at LC?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think every sport, every team's different, every level's different. I don't know. When we recruit more freshmen too, though. I mean, it all depends on your recruiting class, but we recruit a lot of freshmen, and we want to build them and keep them. And when you're the best, when they become seniors, we want them to just excel. They know your system. They know what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish. And yeah, I think a big part of it is culture, but I think all the teams at LC have a great culture. The baseball team, Jake, he does a great job. Men's basketball does a great job. I think they all have great cultures. I just think it comes down to the kids.
Yeah.
All right, so we take a look at, we're getting towards that part of the season where wins really rack up. We've got a couple of big matchups this weekend. Warner Pacific, Multnomah on Friday at 5:00, and then you've got Warner Pacific at 4:00 on Saturday. Talk a little bit about those two teams. I hate to say that they're the bottom of the CCC, but they are a little bit down this year on both of those clubs. What can we look forward to on this weekend's homestand?
I hope there's a lot of transition basketball. I hope our defense is really good. But all year long, it's been one game at a time. We got to take one game at a time because it's a race for that number one spot right now. And so it's just one game at a time. Multnomah, though, has one of the top scores in the whole Cascade Conference. So she can put up points for sure. And then, too, they got two girls that were in top in terms of three-point field goal percentage. So they have players that can score. So we got to be ready to come every single time. And big thing this year is right from the get-go, right from the start, right from the tip, because we've had a couple slow games this year. So it's been a big focus of 40 minutes of basketball. And then Warner Pack, we had a really slow start at their place. I mean, Ellie Sander and Callie Stevens exploded for points in that game, and it all came the second half of that game. And Warner Pack is, I'd say, a little more athletic than Multnomah. So they're going to push tempo. They're going to junk up defense a little bit. But we've got to come ready to play and take care of business.
And then with that Warner Pack game, senior night, how is it going to be to kind of transition to celebrating the seniors to like getting refocused to actually play the game? It's always an interesting thing for me when we go through all the senior night stuff.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. It's but I think we're hoping we're hosting that other game unless things go sideways. So we're hoping we're get another game at home. Hopefully get a few more at home. But this team, they know it's coming. They love Maddie Home and they love Callie and they're going to be there to celebrate. But these girls are all about take care of business too. So I think we'll be okay.
And before we get you out of here, I have to bring up, because I see you all the time when I'm calling Lewiston high school games, you always come out and check out Hannah Broyles, who's the JV coach over there with Lewiston. How has that been? Are you just mentoring Hannah a lot with her coaching, or how is all of that going? Watching a former player now get into the coaching circle.
You end up knowing a lot of your local kids. So I know a lot of those kids, and Mara Kessinger's is pretty much like a little sister to me. So I get to see her play too. And Hannah, when they were looking for the job, Hannah goes, "Do you think I could do it?" And I go, "Oh, they need you, Hannah." Hannah was a fantastic player here, but Hannah's just is so good for that team, the Lewiston girls. I mean, she just brings a little different dynamic. She's always honest. She's going to be honest with them. But yeah, I just want to be there to support her. I mean, she did so much for us in 3 years. I can go watch her team play.
Yeah. It's always awesome to see you over there, even though you went to Coeur d'Alene and we have to play Coeur d'Alene most likely on Friday, but we won't hold you to that. Though the Lady Vikings doing pretty darn good, getting ready to start their state run here. Thursday, I think, is their first game.
Yep, so they're doing pretty good. But when I go, I usually try to wear a Lewiston sweatshirt and a Coeur d'Alene hat if they're playing together. So
there you go. I got in trouble once. I always forget I wear LC hats all the time and went up and called it a Lake City Lewiston game and got yelled at because LC was way too close to Lake City. So I think those guys weren't too happy about me there. But there you go. Caelyn, thank you so much for hanging out with us. First time we've been able to get you on the show. Don't forget Friday versus Multnomah at 5 p.m. and then senior night against Warner Pacific at 4 p.m. on that Saturday. Caelyn, thanks so much for hanging out with us and best of luck the rest of this year.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
That is Coach Orlandi, who we finally were able to get on the show. We haven't gotten a basketball coach on in the 4 years we've done the show. We finally were able to mark that one off the list. What a fantastic team they have going on there right now. Just the 2 losses on the year and getting ready for a good postseason push.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And what this team is doing, spreading the ball around and getting everybody involved. I'm excited to see how these younger teammates really come on off the bench and helping out Callie and them, and excited to see where things go in the playoffs.
Before we get into the Super Bowl talk, let's hit the rest of Lewis Clark State real quick. And I thought about writing all this out. I joked with Alicia about how long it was going to take me. I couldn't do it. My arm got tired. But I will tell you that track and field absolutely dominated at I wrote it 30 times, the Whitworth Invitational this weekend. They take all 4 honors for Cascade Conference Athletes of the Week. So Carter Gordon wins men's indoor track athlete as he has 2 A standards. Just for finishing updating it online. There's so much. 2 A standards for Carter in the 800 and the 4x800 meter relay. So congratulations to him. Christian Bothwell is your men's indoor field athlete. He sets a record in the heptathlon. He has the 6th highest score in the NAIA right now this year. Geraldine Correa has the fastest 800 meter time in all of NAIA this year. She crushed the LC record. Jenna Carpenter, we've talked about her 300 times on this show. Right now, 2nd in the high jump with a 1.70 A standard this weekend. Also 2nd with the long jump of a 5.42 meters. If you want to see the rest of it, 14 national qualifier marks, 7 school records, and all sorts of other stuff, personal records and everything. You can go check out Alicia's article at lcwarriors.com. It's a long article with a lot of records being just destroyed.
I have got to see Jenna a couple of times over the last few weeks with everything going on over at Bulmer Bowl with the flooding and all that. Mm-hmm. The LC teams have been practicing over at Clarkson High School. And so I've had the opportunity to chat with Jenna a couple of times. I love watching and seeing all the athletes over there, but she keeps complaining. She comes up to me with her hands and she's showing me the track is so dirty right now at the high school that all of the runners have black hands from touching the track, getting things going, so it's just
dirty Clarkson Bantam track. What do you expect? No, hey, we'll have to get Jenna on the show again. It's every week. There's just more and more records being broken. And we've made this joke for years of, all right, now we're going to do the update on the record book of track and field every time they come up. It's just what they have been doing has just been phenomenal, and they continue to just bring in new talent that just shatters the record of the previous people, and it's a ongoing cycle here at LC. You absolutely love to see it. Tennis is in full force right now. The women played 3 times over the weekend. They played a doubleheader against Whitman. They did lose both of those, but when you're playing that much, it's tough to get the right combinations. If anybody knows Kai Fong, he loves to do this right now early on in the year with doubles combinations. Alicia always keeps a track of all the different doubles combinations he uses, and it ends up being a huge giant Excel sheet by the end of the season. They did go out and get a win against Whitworth on Saturday. Men, their team is so deep. They played at 2 places at the same time on Saturday. Half the team stayed at home and played Whitworth. The other team went out to Whitman, and both were victorious over the weekend. So congratulations to them. Again, it just shows you how many fantastic players we have right now with the Warriors. Both teams are in action twice this week over at the LCSC Tennis Center. See, at least I could say it right sometimes. I write Activity Center at least half the time. And only a third of those times do I catch it myself. And then she always has to make fun of me about it. But Colorado College is here on Thursday. And then the community colleges of Spokane will be here on Friday. So I just can't type it. It's 100% true. So a lot going on. Obviously, baseball had all of their games in California get rained out. We're getting closer and closer. CFI 2 on Sunday. Did I miss that one? So there you go. Even more tennis. Kai just continues to have more and more tennis coming at us. And always go. I went over there with Addie a couple of days ago for one of the women's events. No, it was a men's event. It was a men's event that they had over there a little over a week ago. And Kai was super nice to her. She has a signed tennis ball from one of the former players that was sitting there watching. And she's been bouncing that ball all over the place. You can almost hear it all the time. By the way, the drawing today, you can kind of see it. There's a cat dreaming of a fish over here. Addie drew that earlier today. I got to get her a stool so she can draw it higher up on the whiteboard. But she has been doing a great job of giving me new drawings for every bad brackets or R&R sports report. So got to give her a shout out there. Also a quick update. We are not in studio, as you can kind of tell. We have not been in studio in a long time, and I'm not sure if we ever will be again. I'm still waiting to hear updates on how everything went over there. If anybody that doesn't know, the sub at LC had a water pipe bust a few weeks ago. They are still cleaning it up. The last time I was in there like a week ago, the downstairs area was still kind of tarped off. I was told that the radio station kind of got hit hard during that, and some of the equipment got messed up. I have been waiting for an email from Bryant saying whether things are all good to go or not. I was unable to make the comm board meeting this last weekend. I'm sure I would have heard the update there. But for now, I mean, plus we're doing this show on a Monday, so we would have been home anyways. But maybe at some point we'll be back in the studio, but we will continue to bring you the R&R Sports Report each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it, whether it's on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever we can fit these shows in. All right. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, I am. I'm ready as far as I can be.
Let's move on to the big event that happened yesterday. That was the doggy. Do they still do the doggy bowl? I was going to make that joke. I don't know if they still do that or not. But the Super Bowl was yesterday. It might have just ended. That was a very long Super Bowl.
It was almost 8 o'clock. Man, 8 o'clock Pacific time.
Kansas City in overtime. That almost turned into double overtime with the 25-22 win. And I will just ask you real quick what you thought about it entertainment-wise first, because I heard a lot of complaints, especially in the first half, of, oh, this is such a boring Super Bowl. Haley showed me a post of one of her Green Bay groups of, oh, this is the worst Super Bowl ever. I was like, you guys just not like defense? I thought from opening kick to the end, this was one of the best Super Bowls I've ever watched.
Yeah, I think 100% was one of the better ones. That it felt like a chess match at the very beginning, and that's what it was. It's both between Spags versus Shanahan, that way, and in the play calling from Reed and in that direction. It just felt like who wanted to take the small steps at first, and it turned out it got a lot more exciting towards the end.
Yes.
After the play calls of and San Francisco jumping out and getting on the board and up 10-0, things a lot different in that switch. So,
and for all those people, I'm surprised we have not heard Robert Taylor, but I did warn him we wouldn't talk about the Super Bowl right off the bat. So I'm not sure what he's doing. And he's probably still celebrating right now. But for those that are going, look at Kansas City making a huge comeback again in the Super Bowl. 10-0 is nothing. It's not to me, that's not a comeback, especially if it's in the first half. It never felt like Kansas City was out of this game. With that said, I do feel like the 49ers outplayed the Chiefs for the first 3 quarters, but they were just unable to capitalize on those big plays. To me, I really felt that Kansas City was slightly off. We saw that with the fumbles that they had. They continued to be off with the center quarterback exchange, especially in shotgun, even though the last play before the end of regulation was a bad snap to Mahomes. Mahomes had an uncharacteristic, horrible throw that ended up in an interception in the third quarter. Until the muffed punt, I really felt like San Francisco was in control of the game, but they never got to that point where I went, all right, now the Chiefs are in trouble. At no point did I go, Kansas City needs to go on a rally or they're going to lose this game. But I always felt like they were the second best team on the field for a while.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll disagree with you a little bit, and it's just from the play calling scenario side of it. Listen, Kyle Shanahan came out in the third quarter, and it seemed very flat to me, to the point of he was trying to make Brock Purdy force the ball, push the ball, three and outs in a row, 9 plays consecutive were all throwing, and you've got one of the best rushing running backs, or as they were bringing up in the game, scat back. We don't use that term anymore, but one of the best running backs in the National Football League, and they did not hand the ball to him for 9 out of 9 consecutive plays, and you got deep and had the one penalty, your 3rd and 15 in one of those groups of plays. And for me, I just didn't like the way Kyle Shanahan came out starting things off in the third quarter. I think they could have pushed the envelope a little bit, run the ball, and set things up a little bit easier for Purdy. And don't get me wrong, Ayuk made some great plays, and Purdy made some plays to extend some drives later in that game. But you look at where and what McCaffrey did on that first possession of overtime. They handed him the ball quite frequently, take up 7.5 minutes before they finally kicked the field goal. I mean, a lot of things, people pushing and pointing their fingers at Moody with missing that field goal. Yes, it was a low kick, or extra point, excuse me. It was a low trajectory, but it was blocked. I mean, Kansas City did a great job blocking that thing. So I wouldn't
CV for the electric age means
I wouldn't put all the issues on Moody with that one. I just think that starting the third quarter could have been a little bit different for that 49ers team.
Some car commercial knew we were going to talk about commercials later and decided just to auto play off in the background. So I'm going to push right back at you about the third quarter play calling for Shanahan. And I think he wanted to come out and do something he thought Kansas City was not going to expect. I think we all went, all right, Christian McCaffrey is going to run the ball a lot. And obviously he touched the ball one time in about an hour stretch. If you go from his crazy, the trick play for the touchdown to later on in the third quarter. But a lot of that was, all right, we want to try to surprise them with the pass with Brock Purdy. They weren't able to do so. The cornerbacks for Kansas City were phenomenal. The pass rush also was really good. But then, like you said, penalties would happen. Obviously, they couldn't complete a pass, so they weren't getting themselves into manageable plays. I would have liked to seen more screenplays maybe to get McCaffrey back into it. But there's so many teams that will get a small lead on Patrick Mahomes and then try to sit on it. And I liked that Shanahan did not try to just sit on his lead. He wanted to continue to try to push things offensively and build that lead because he knew 10-3 was nowhere close to being enough to win that game.
I agree 1,000%, but I'm going to say this, and it just turns it back to the problem with Kyle Shanahan calling it. If you did your job, you would have saw that the same thing happened in the AFC Championship game. Baltimore tried to do the exact same thing. Number 1 rushing offense in the league, and they put it in the hands of Lamar, and you nailed it 1,000%. And our buddy Robert Taylor has said the same thing. That defensive corners of that team of Kansas City is good. They adapt to everything. And when Lamar and those guys came out throwing the ball, Todd Monken was trying to, switch things up and not pound the ball. They were able to adapt, and that boils back to Spagnuolo. So I think Shanahan should have taken a little bit of thought of what happened against Baltimore in that AFC Conference Championship to not quite go down that same tunnel of, let's go away from what got us to that game.
But was it just Christian McCaffrey that got you in the game? Ayuk got you to that game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Juwan Jennings, if the
Mhm.
49ers would have held on and won that game, he was your Super Bowl MVP. He was
1,000%.
fantastic. Obviously, Debo having his hamstring issues was a big deal. George Kittle left the game for a little bit. That was a big deal. The defender who I'm blanking on his name, Greenlaw, getting hurt was a big deal. There's no excuses for the 49ers losing. But just again, where we're talking about the play calling, and yes, the Ravens did that same thing. This is the Patrick Mahomes effect. Like, people, they get that small lead or it's a really close game, and they're like, we know. We'll talk about the ending of this game and see if you had the same thoughts I did. But like, they know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do come the fourth quarter. So they want to continue to push the envelope, because you can't just run the clock out on somebody that as good as Patrick Mahomes. And that's why you see teams continue to change. It wasn't like Christian McCaffrey was amazing on the ground. He averaged 3.6 yards a carry. And a lot of that got ballooned on that drive in the fourth quarter when Kansas City got tired. And he was able to bust off a couple of pretty decent runs there. So it wasn't like the 49ers were doing fantastically on the ground game. But I would say I would have liked to have saw more drop-off passes and screen passes to McCaffrey, who had a great game, 8 catches, 80 yards and a touchdown there, with the crazy trick play being the touchdown. But so we get the muff punt. It was just a bad break for the 49ers, a miscommunication by them. One of the blockers has the ball hit off their leg. The returner can't jump on it. Chiefs score in the very next play. And you want to talk about just a straight momentum flipper. That even though the 49ers then were able to go back down and score and take the lead, missed the extra point, so it's still a 3-point game. Put yourself back in the mindset of watching this game yesterday. And I'm trying to pull up exactly how much time they had left. They had, 150 to go. Is that right?
I think it was roughly that.
153 when they kicked it off down by 3. Was there any doubt in your mind that Kansas City was going to go down and score?
No, I knew they were going to make an effort to get down there. And it's the same Patrick Mahomes like we've been seeing for many years. He puts that team on his back, and 4th and 1. 4th and 1, who would have figured he would have scurried down the field?
Everybody.
Everybody. We knew he was going to run, but, you would think that you would have spied somebody, whether or not you pull Warner off on him and
go back and watch him play. Who are you going to put on him? Because if you put anybody on him, Rice would have been wide open. Rice was wide open anyways. Kelsey was becoming wide open. You could have put 2 more people over there to just spy on Mahomes, and he would have dumped it off. Like, that play was perfectly set up. There was zero stopping that play unless you knew exactly what was ran and you knew where to set up everybody. But it wasn't, okay, well, we needed to spy Mahomes. And he would have just flipped it off to either Kelsey or Rice and got the first down that way. Like, that play was put up beautifully. The other thing, overtime, 49ers kicked the field goal. You could have turned the TV off at that point because you knew Kansas City was scoring a touchdown there, right?
I almost 1,000%. I talked to a teacher friend of mine today, and I'll throw this out, and I want your opinion of it. Is 4th and 3, or 4th and goal from the 3-yard line. Do you go ahead and do you kick it there, or do you run the ball one more time? And I was kind of shocked, like him, the way that Kyle Shanahan has called his games all season long. Could you have seen San Francisco run the ball 4th and 3, and if they don't make it in anyway, you're setting up Kansas City very, very deep here?
No, I mean, you got to get the points there. All right, and you can't let Mahomes kick a field goal to win that game. You're hoping then you could get one stop and at least force a field goal at worst. You can't allow him to go, well, I just need to get to the 35 to win the Super Bowl. At that point, Mahomes is going to be able to do that. Do you, one last thing before we move on to other stuff, do you agree with Shanahan's decision to get the ball first in overtime with the new playoff horrible overtime rules where both teams now get a possession no matter what? And then if they both score the same amount, then we're cool with sudden death, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I got in this argument with Eric Watkins about, we don't want sudden death in overtime unless both teams now have the ball one time each, and then sudden death. Now we're cool with it. Like now we're fine. Like I hate it. But anyways, here's being set up. Are you cool with the 49ers getting the ball first?
I'm fine with it, but here's how I would have done and how I would do playoffs in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I will catch flack from a lot of people that think that. I love what Bill Vitovich said at the coin toss. Gentlemen, we're starting a new game. Play an entire quarter.
Yes.
15 total minutes. If we're still tied, that we're going to do another 15 total minutes. I would prefer seeing as many chances, the opportunity, play another entire quarter, because you look at basketball, a high school level, you play, yes, you play a modified 4 more minutes, but you play until you have an overall winner. Same with college basketball. You play the entire quarter. Why don't we do that?
But at overtime, you don't play it with the entire quarter in basketball. You play a shorter amount of time.
But still, I would play an entire, give it a time limit. And if you have to punt, you punt. If the other team punts or gets a score, you got another chance. Play it as it would be a quarter, or play it as a full possession.
I've said it for a while now. I mean, if you want the fairest rule and you don't want them to play a long time, because yes, you could tell everybody on that field was absolutely exhausted. Mm-hmm. They basically did play an entire quarter anyways when Kansas City was able to score that touchdown. There was just seconds left from the first double overtime Super Bowl ever. But to me, it is, if you go into overtime, whoever had the lead first gets the ball first. The team that came back and tied the game up, great. Congratulations, you've tied the game up. You forced extra time, but the other team gets the ball. Sudden death rules, totally fine. I get the field goal deal where you don't want them to only have to go 40 yards to win a game. That's fine with me. But if you don't want that rule, then it should just be straight up. Everyone complaining, well, this rule gets changed because Kansas City wins a coin toss and Buffalo doesn't get a chance to respond. I asked this question to Eric. So say San Francisco finishes off that drive yesterday. They don't get stopped at the 9. They score their touchdown. Kansas City goes right on down, scores a touchdown. Now we're tied again, right? San Francisco gets to the 38-yard line. Moody hits a 53-yard field goal, and now San Francisco wins the Super Bowl. How many people on Twitter that night and today would be complaining that Mahomes did not get a chance to answer back?
Fair question. Yeah. But then that's what I would just say again. I know I'm the minority, or I might be the only one, but you play. If
you want to do a 10-minute deal, that's fine. The one thing, and then you go from there. There's different ways to do it. I hate that they've made this extra rule like it's going to change anything from it. And also, this could be a complete moot point anyways. From what they've been saying, Andy Reid had already decided if they had been in this situation, if they had won the toss, they were going to kick. He had already told Chris Jones and that defense that get yourselves ready because you're going to be on the field first. And even if San Francisco scores a touchdown, if Kansas City got the ball and they scored a touchdown, Andy Reid, from what the reports have said, Andy Reid would have went for 2. And then the Super Bowl would have been decided right there. So
yeah, and I mean,
it would have been a moot point, but.
So this is kind of a silly question, but how many of these games? I agree with you 1,000% on a statement you made at the very start of this intro, and as this was probably one of the best football Super Bowls we've ever seen. It was
a good battle, man.
And that's the thing. I think this was a very, very much a chess match. It was a great game between a player that is cementing his place in the Hall of Fame to what they were doing the entire time, and to boil down to two good teams going into overtime to decide it, made it all the best. I mean, I enjoyed it. Out of how many of the last few Super Bowls we have seen, this one, last year was 38-35, 23-21, but you look before that, Tampa Bay defeated Kansas City 31-39. Some big
When was the
spreads.
last blowout?
That was it was Tom Brady against Kansas City 31-9 in Super Bowl 50. Or excuse me, 55. Super Bowl 55.
Kansas City only scored 9 points in that game?
Yep. And you look at some of the other ones, with Atlanta coming back, and then you go back to Denver, Carolina, they win by 2 touchdowns. But I think that's the bigger the blowouts. But to have a game that you stay that close in all game long, it just tells you how talented this is. We haven't even talked about Bosa and what he was able to do all game. He disrupted Mahomes a ton in this game as well.
San Francisco defense stood up. I have a bad memory about that Tampa Bay Kansas City game. For whatever reason, I thought that was closer back in the day. Just to kind of show you revisionist history in your own brain and how all that worked. We will hit the halftime show and the commercials and all of that in the second hour. We'll get into all the goofiness that goes around with the Super Bowl. I'm sure the prop bets were hilarious. I know Eric and Harry wanted us as part of theirs. I don't know if you were able to fill out yours. I just never had a chance to. But from what he told me, just nobody was doing well on those. But I just want to continue.
I got 5. That's all I got.
Just real quick before we move fully on from the Super Bowl and we get into the rest of the show. Let's look at the fallout of the Super Bowl. So I believed Kansas City was already a dynasty last year, winning 2 out of 3 and being in the Super Bowl so many straight years. Now they've won 3 of the last 4. First team in 20 years to win back-to-back. The dynasty question's out the window. They are a dynasty. There's no question about it. Where do they rank right now? Obviously, everyone's coming back. They're all going to try to run it back to be the first team to win 3 in a row. But right now, if for whatever reason Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed went, that was cool. That what a way to go out. We're all going to retire and live happily ever after. Where does this dynasty rank all time?
I think right now you would almost have to put it number 2 with a bullet. I might say that with a bullet. I mean, this team right now, the weapons they've got, especially with Rice making the move and Pacheco, what he has done. But you've got probably the best quarterback hands down right now with Mahomes. Can you put him in the same name of Brady, Gronk, Edelman, those guys right now?
Well, that's
but then
here's a question for you. Is the New England Patriots one dynasty or 2? Because they had a 6, 7, 8 year gap where they didn't win anything.
All right.
So it? I mean, because Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were there for all of it, yes, but that was a different Patriots group in the early 2000s than we saw with Gronk and Edelman and all of them. The second run, are those 2 different sets?
I would think they kind of have to be together, but I mean it's the same thing as saying Chuck Noll and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the late 70s. They were split out in 2 years. They win 2 championships, then don't make the playoffs for 2, or don't make the Super Bowl for 2 years, and then they get their next 2. So I mean, and they call that a dynasty. With
2 years compared to half a decade is.
So right now I would put in my gut feeling right now, I would say they have to be number 2. If they can come back, make it to the playoffs, make it to the Super Bowl next year, I think hands down, then they would be the number one team over Tom Brady.
Can you imagine if they win the Super Bowl again next year? First team ever to three-peat with how
they started this year
Yeah.
is really what I think defines what that team did.
we talk about it with baseball all the time where people look at like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Cardinals and all the different dynasties that happened way back in the old pastime of baseball before free agency and all of that changed the way baseball works. And now it's a lot more spread out. Nobody's winning back-to-back Super World Series. Same thing's happening here with the NFL. Again, this is the first time in 20 years somebody's won back-to-back. No one has ever won 3 in a row. So for the Chiefs to be able to do that next year, if they do that, I think you just, with a permanent marker, put them the best dynasty of all time, because I don't know if anyone's ever going to be able to top what this team has been doing. We will see what happens next year with Kansas City. I want to quickly shift over to the San Francisco 49ers. There's a old famous saying of the Super Bowl hangover. It took a while for the Philadelphia Eagles to have that hangover, but they ended up having a hangover late in the year. The 49ers right now, and we'll talk about the sports odds as far as the Super Bowl go, are your odds-on favorites to win the Super Bowl. I'm already getting into baseball mode. Yeah. I keep saying World Series. They're already your odds-on favorites to win the Super Bowl next year. Do you believe that they're the favorites, or do you worry about that Super Bowl hangover?
I don't see anything with that team. The stories that I'm hearing, I think they're going to be right back there. I mean, they've got the pieces, and whether or not how the salary cap falls. And that was a couple of questions that I got asked today by students. They asked me, what do I think about some of these guys re-signing, especially like Chris Jones staying in Kansas City, and what do you do with that? But I don't see that changing in San Francisco. I think they've got a team with Deebo Samuel, hopefully healthy, Greenlaw. What happens with him from the injury? I still hadn't heard today if it was a confirmed Achilles, but I think this team is set for a couple of years. I think there are going to be a team in that NFC. You tell me one other team that is going to fight them to get back into that. You look at what Detroit has done. You look at what Detroit has done. You look at what the Rams have done. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Rams make it back, but
I think they are back. The Cowboys could finally stop being the Cowboys and win a playoff game. The Packers are young and hungry, and they've shown some great signs. NFC South is always interesting to see what they could do. Yeah, there's always teams that bounce up. Just to throw it out there, when the 49ers lost in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs back in 2020, that following season, the 49ers went 6-10. Obviously, this is a different squad than what we had. However, it's just kind of what happens. You get that Super Bowl hangover. With that said, before we move on and get back into some LCSC talk, Super Bowl is behind us. This 2023-24 year is in the books. Both of us were able to get the 49ers pick into the Super Bowl. We did not get the AFC representative correct.
Should have.
So, well, I don't know about that. I should have, but my quarterback got hurt. So it is now time. We lock it in. You can never, ever change it until August when we actually get into our actual predictions. Who makes Super Bowl 59? And this one is in New Orleans. Right now, your current odds, San Francisco is 1, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. 49ers are first, Kansas City second, Baltimore 3, Buffalo 4, and then Detroit and Cincinnati right now are at a tie for 5th. That is your Super Bowl odds, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. But your Super Bowl for Super Bowl 59 will have what 2 teams?
Oh, boy. I'm going to say it. I'm probably 1,000% wrong. Rematch Super Bowl 47. Baltimore, San Francisco.
God, he can't help himself.
I
He
can't.
can't help
Listen,
himself.
I'm still upset about the way how Todd Monken did that. Run the ball, run the ball. Lamar proved that he could get that team there. I think is really good. If I had to pick the top four, and my top four has to be Detroit and San Francisco, Kansas City and Baltimore. I think we see those teams back in the same spots as this last year.
All right, my Super Bowl is simple.
Does Jordan Love? Oh,
No, it's not the Super Bowl. I just want to do that. No, absolutely. I'm not putting that back in the universe. Obviously, it did not go well for the Jets to even have positive thoughts last year. No more positive thoughts. We're back to negative Nancy's. The Jets are going to only win 2 games next year, and then we're just going to be happy with whatever we get. I'm not doing that to myself again because it lasted 4 plays. No, my Super Bowl prediction, close to what I had this year. Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams.
wow.
Rematch of Super Bowl 40 or 54. That'll be
right.
my prediction there. However, I would believe far more that we will get Chiefs versus 49ers again over about anything right now, but we will see how everything shakes and moves and gets going. Remind you that you're watching the RNR Sports Report right here on our Facebook and YouTube pages. We're here every single week, usually Tuesday nights from 6 to 8, but Robert has a basketball game, and I haven't talked to him about sports in a month and a half, so we wanted to do a Monday show. Next week, we'll have a Monday show as well, as I will be out of town doing some basketball as well. So we're just trying to make things work and get into the groove of things one more time. Again, we are doing the shows from home because I believe the studio is still a bit messed up over there at LCSC. And if you are joining us late, we did have Caelyn Orlandi, the head coach of the LCSC women's basketball team, at the beginning of the show. So definitely go back and check out that fantastic interview. Trying to buy time because Sam was so nice enough to hop on about 15 minutes early, and he is went away from his camera at the moment. There he is. He's ready to go now. He's off there hiding. So there we go. Let's get him in here. Senior men's basketball player for the LCSC Warriors, Mr. Sam Stockton. Sam, thanks so much for hanging out with us here tonight.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on.
I love the fact that you were very early. You were prompt, ready to go. You knew you were coming on 7 o'clock. This man was here in the green room at 6:45. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Oh, thank you.
I'll ask you the same question. Did you watch the Super Bowl? Did you have a rooting interest? Did you enjoy it? How would yesterday go for you?
Yes, I did watch the Super Bowl, and I had a strong rooting interest in the 49ers. Main reason for that is I just didn't want to see Mahomes get another one. You know, I enjoy him being good. Don't know if I'm ready for another GOAT debate, but yeah, I was 49ers all the way.
GOAT debates happen in every sport every year, and it just gets annoying. I'll throw it out there right now. Let's just go right into the GOAT debate, and we'll get into a hot topic first time that we have you on the show. Since you brought up the GOAT debate, and so you're such a young man compared to the guy over here, especially this guy over here, Jordan or LeBron, which one's the GOAT?
I personally go with Jordan. Jordan, I may be biased. I don't know why, but I'll go with Jordan.
Oh, you might have a couple of biases and a couple of reasons why championships are not in your family is because of that, man. So I totally get it there. So you played at Gonzaga Prep. What made you decide to go to LC all those years ago?
Well, yeah, geez, all those years ago. It's been a while since then, but yeah, I went to Gonzaga Prep and wasn't super sought after out of high school. I played with a lot of good players. Anton Watson, who plays at GU, kind of the leader of that team. And out of high school, I actually took a year off. Just worked out. That was 2020. So kind of things got shut down, and I was doing nothing but being in the gym. and there was some interest from LC State when I came out of high school, but they had a really good team at the time. So I knew I had to wait a little bit, and then Coach Johnson reached out again, came on a visit, worked out with them, and I really liked the coaching staff. I really liked the place, and knew it was a spot for me.
You say that you played at Gonzaga Prep, where there's so many different high schools, and you said it, so many different good players up there, from teams in 2A Division 3A all the way up to 4A. There's a lot of good talent there. To come down to quiet little Lewiston, Idaho, was it a big change coming from Spokane down here?
I wouldn't say too much. It helped that it's not that far of a drive back, so anything I may have missed from home, or any that may have changed much, wasn't too far away. I had some family down here. My brother actually married a girl from Lewiston, so the connection started coming right away.
So Randy, I'm gonna this is trivia question. Do you know who Sam's brother married? Marty Schlater's daughter. So now related to my athletic director at Lincoln Middle School, Marty Schlater. So one of the Schlater's girls that played at Lewiston High School.
That's just unfair because you know everyone in this valley. So just brutal. So you major in business management. Is there any set plans or ideas that you may want to do once you graduate?
Not necessarily. I have some things that I've been interested in. Some stuff that my oldest brother has done for work. I've had some interest in. He in the Spokane area, kind of buys and develop apartments and stuff, and kind of takes old buildings, keeps their architecture in their class, and makes them nice again. So I kind of like that, but that's just kind of an idea as of now.
You said that your brother, you're growing up had 5 siblings, correct? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Any of them big talented basketball players or sport athletes that played other things in high school?
Oh, for sure. Do we have enough time? They have quite the record on them. So I guess I'll just start from the top. My oldest brother, Houston, standout football player at Gonzaga Prep. And Prep's a really good football school. He actually played at Montana for college, and while his time there, they made 2 national championship runs. So that was pretty cool. Then I have my brother Michael, who played at Westminster, was in the same league as LC State back in the day. So I came down here, saw a couple of those games. He's now playing overseas, professional basketball player. Brother David played at GU. Good career there. He's a professional basketball player, has been for a couple, like 10 or so years now. He's bouncing around, but he's doing good. Oldest sister, Lindsay, she went and played professional basketball in Spain. She's now started her family, so she's moved on from that. And then sister Laura, who is currently playing, she played at GU and currently playing in Germany. So
yeah. all that talent in the family, and you're the youngest, right?
Yes, sir.
How was that growing up? Looking up to all of that talent, and I'm sure that the pickup games at the Stockton household got really intense. Just kind of talk about how it was growing up with all of that basketball talent.
Well, it was absolutely awesome. All my siblings are a lot older than me, especially my brothers. So I kind of saw them. They were like my heroes, really. Like seeing my brother play. All 3 of my brothers play. It was really something to look at and look forward to. Not much competing on my end. They got me by 10 and 14 years. So I was really just out there running around with them. But, just seeing them compete and seeing how serious they took their sports really kind of made it a goal for myself to, chase what they're doing.
And then kind of talk about your growth here at LC. Like you said, you came here in the 2020-2021 season. You were there when LC went to the national championship game. You weren't able to get on the floor as you're more of a bench role player there. But you've continued to grow here at LC and now becoming a key contributor in the starting role. Just kind of talk about your growth here with the Warriors and just kind of what you've learned from Austin throughout the years.
Yeah, well, that first team I was on was a great team. All those guys really hoop, and they're really really good leaders. And that's it was more of a learning year for me. Coming in as a freshman and kind of seeing how they did it and how they made a team great and got to the national championship like they did. And then kind of just from then on, it's taking what I learned from those guys and every year since, and getting more trust from coach and more trust in myself, and just yeah, like you said, just growing into the role. And now we're here having another chance to get back to the national championship, and just want to do all that I can.
And you talk about your role and your growth over the last couple of years. Let's talk about your game just a little bit. I want to know what's more fun. Do you like to play the defensive side of this? Are you wanting to be the shooter, or are you liking to feed the ball? Do you like to make the assist? What's your favorite part of your game?
Probably the most satisfying part to me is going and getting the assist. That's fun because you get looked at positively. You get a stat, I guess you could say, but the best part is that your teammate is really benefiting off of it. And then I think, as being a successful team, that's what it's all about, is making your teammates better. But the defensive end is pretty cool too, especially when you're making stops. That's pretty fun.
And then obviously now the biggest guy on the floor, or listed at 6'2", yet you get double-digit rebounds several times already this year. What are you seeing? Just obviously you've played at LC for a few years, but how are you seeing the ball differently come off the rim, where you're just getting yourself in the right positions to get all those rebounds?
I'm not so sure if it's what I'm seeing. I guess something I've learned throughout the years is and through all the practices and that is, coach always is saying how the guy who gets the most rebounds will get time on the court, will get the most time on the court, because that's invaluable stat to have and is needed. So I guess, trying to find my fit and my place to play, I had to kind of find little things like rebounds to make that happen. And so I just know that if I need to be out there, and I think I do, that I just need to get those boards.
We talk about your game and different stats that you've done. Looking at what you did just this last Saturday against Corbin, these are always the stat sheets as I've been able to write for the men's team and do the recaps at home from time to time. Your stat sheet is always one I always want to look at, because you always fill out just different boxes that you don't expect it to see all combined. But this Saturday, 19 points, pretty good shooting percentage as well, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals. Just, do you get more, happiness is not the right word, but satisfaction, I guess, from being able to fill out different categories and just know that you really were able to help the team in so many different aspects?
Yeah, as like a point guard of the team, I just try to help the team in every way I can, and I think one way I can do that is being multifaceted and do every little thing. So I'm not necessarily out there, counting the stats, or like, oh, maybe I got my rebounds for the day, maybe I should get an assist or a steal. But just any way I can, help the team. And a lot of those stats are team stats anyways. Guys getting me the ball so I can have a good shooting percentage, or them my teammates that knock down some shots to get me these assists are huge, and they're really doing it all, but I can get it to them. So.
Well, I see you as being that team leader and that guy and that role model for this team, because you look at this LC team, very young, a lot of sophomores and the juniors, and this team is, I think, a very deep team. Talk about what your role is with these underclassmen.
Yeah, well, as you guys know, I'm one of 3 seniors, which, seniors kind of have their own role to lead and make sure everyone's doing the right stuff. But more than usual, I'm the only guy who's been here for more than 2 years. I was there for the the national championship game. I was there for a tough season. I've been around, so I feel like it's kind of my job to hold up a certain LC standard that could have maybe gotten lost in the shuffle if it ever did. Kind of know how we play, kind of keep traditions alive, and yeah, just lead.
You guys have had a pretty good year so far. 17-7 on the year, 15-3 in conference. But the team right now that's kind of the one to beat, College of Idaho, who did to win the national championship the year before, really took it to you guys at the activity center a couple of weeks ago. You're right down to the wire. Just a couple weeks left here in the regular season. We'll talk about senior night here in a moment. And then you get into the postseason play. What can you and the rest of the team kind of do to try to get yourselves up to that level and compete? Because you guys played well with them down there at their floor, and I think you can compete with it. But how do you get up to that level?
Well, one thing I think they're really good at is they're just a tough team. If they need to go out and get a bunch of rebounds, that's what they do. If they need to make shots, that's what they do. So I think something we need to do as a team is just be ready for the physicality and toughness of the game, and know that they're not going to give up, and that they want to absolutely destroy us more than any other team does, and just kind of stick it to us. Mm-hmm. So I think we just got to be ready for that. Maybe even more mentally than anything. Just know that they're going to be coming at us, and we got to be ready for it.
So senior night weekend here this weekend, you guys take on Multnomah at 7 p.m. on Friday, and then senior night against Warner Pack on Saturday at 6 p.m. Again, one of the three seniors on the squad and the one that has been here the longest. What kind of emotions have you been going through this week, knowing that this will be your final home games for the regular season here as a Warrior?
I haven't really, sat down and thought about it quite yet. I guess one positive thing about it is I'm confident that we can close out the season and be able to earn a home game for playoffs. So maybe any emotions that I might have might be saved for then. But I'm just really excited for these games and keep proving that that we belong in the national championship or tournament.
You said that you were on the bench in 2021. How bad do you want this championship here in 2024?
Yeah, there's just a certain feeling about being in Kansas City that is one that I won't forget. And all those the wins we had, in the tournament, each one I remember and want to get back to and each one was so much fun, and each time was so competitive with that team. And I know that we didn't finish the job, and so to be able to go there, win a national championship would be everything. It'd be a dream come true.
You talk about experiences and remembering stuff with Kansas City. It would be remiss not to bring up the fact that you guys got to start your year against Gonzaga and Arizona, play the Bulldogs where your dad and a couple brothers had played and get to play at the Kennel. Just kind of talk about that experience for you. Did you have a lot of fun conversations with some siblings before that game?
Yeah, no, definitely. I get to joke around with my Gonzaga siblings, like my brother David and Laura, saying that I'll be the last Stockton to get a bucket in McCarthy. So I always hang that over them, and even though they'll have 1,000 more points than me in that arena, it's fun to have something on them. And then playing in Arizona is such an awesome experience. The Pac-12 atmosphere is awesome, and just that arena, it was like I've said, it was a dream come true.
So we've brought it up a couple of times. You being the son of John Stockton, one of the most legendary players to play. How is it having him at most of your home games or most of your games, supporting you, and even him with your siblings? How important is it to have your folks there watching over you guys?
Oh, it's great. It's awesome having them in my corner, always cheering me on and supporting me, and when games don't go well, they're always there with suggestions and telling me what I can do to fix it. Sometimes constructive, sometimes they just want to give me a little roast, but it's all right. They're always there, even if they're not at the games, and the support's always appreciated.
I was always curious how that relationship went. I know my son's just getting into bowling, and I'm a decent bowler, but not at the level of your dad as far as basketball goes. And I always know I'm like trying to fight not bringing up issues that his coaches are bringing up, and trying to give him tips that his coaches are doing differently. So I'm always curious if John is like, well, go just talk to your coach, I got nothing for you, or if he's out there giving you the advice that he learned too. It's got to be tough as a dad who, played that many years, and now he's had all these different kids go through the sport and try not to be head coach as well.
Yeah.
So,
well,
Sam,
something.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. I was just gonna say that he's definitely giving me the tips when I need it, and won't just let me just not necessarily know what to do. He's always there.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, and hopefully he's there rooting you on for several extra weeks, as you guys hopefully can go on a nice little postseason run. Don't forget, final regular season home games, as Sam said. Hopefully we'll get a couple of postseason games here at the P1FCU Activity Center as well. But Friday at 7 p.m. against Multnomah, 6 p.m. against Mortar Pack. That'll be senior night. Go fill up the gym and make it as loud as possible for Sam and the guys. And, of course, the women as well just before them. But, Sam, finally got you on the show. We appreciate your time, man.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
That is
Thanks,
Sam
Sam.
Stockton, one of the 3 seniors for the men's squad. Nice to finally get him on there. Kind of felt like we were ignoring a lot. We didn't get any of the interviews this year like normal, with a lot of the issues we were having at the studio. And it felt like before that, Khalil wanted to be the interviewer every time we wanted to get a men's basketball player in. So glad to get Sam in there and get his thoughts. And it's the same with the women that we could talk about for the men, that they just feel like they're right on that cusp of being able to go on this great run. The men, just like the women, hitting their injury issues throughout the year and doing a great job of just finding those key players. Obviously, College of Idaho is just so good right now in the league, but very, very excited to see how both of these two teams wrap up the year.
And it boils down to the youth, and we talked about it, and Sam bringing it up. He's one of 3 seniors, so I mean, the identity of this ball club is still here. Even though Jaden Bradley and Sam Stockton, and also I'm drawing a blank, Davian Brown, the 3 seniors. These guys have made a huge difference, but you've got the talent. You've got Boykins, you've got Peoples, and even looking at John Lustig as a sophomore, what this team is going to be capable of the next couple of years is just going to be great, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, Alton Hamilton right now as a freshman I think his growth that I've seen on the floor has just been absolutely phenomenal too. Just going to be really excited to see how things go. I won't be there Friday, but I'll be there Saturday to check out the action. Let's get into the high school stuff, and I'll let you talk about both the Clarkston teams here real quick, as both the girls and boys getting into postseason play.
Yeah, we start postseason play tomorrow night. We'll start with the boys, who basically got to win out districts to get a sniff at making the playoffs. The Bantams come away with 2 out of 3 over the last week, as they had their makeup game against Rogers or Shadle. Yes, Rogers, fall in that one, but able to defeat East Valley and Shadle Park. Carter Stein has been very dominant in the last few games. 12 points in the game against Rogers in the loss, 20 points on Friday against Shadle Park, and 18 to lead the way. They're figuring out what to do with Carter, bouncing him a little bit more in the post play. Wish he was a little bit taller, but he is doing some great things there. Clarkston Bantam boys will host tomorrow. They will be playing against Shadle Park, 6:00, Kramer Gym in that one. And then they will get the winner of probably going to end up being Pullman. We'll see. Pullman has the bye right now, along with West Valley. East Valley, West Valley play. Rogers has the bye with Pullman right now. So with everything went down boiling there in that matchup. For the girls, it has been total domination this season.
Mhm.
21-0, 10-0 in conference play, and the selfishness, the being able to spread the ball around
Yeah.
has been huge for this team. Every week, everybody is scoring. Maybe one misses a bucket, but what this team is doing, even with all 5 of their seniors making a difference. We talked about it with Coach Orlandi. Kendall Wallace signed in with LC. We're going to get to see her a little bit more, but she's averaging almost 16 points a game every game. And this team is just blowing out other teams in the GSL. And so they'll have a bye this first week, and then they will get the winner of they'll either get Shadle Park or they'll get Rogers on Thursday, host there. And then if they win, which they should, they'll host again on Saturday, 2:00. All these games at Kramer Gym. But it boils down to, and I think we talked a little bit about it off air before we started. The tough part about this team right now is they're very deep, hugely deep. But what it's going to boil down to is the GSL and why we have went down from 3 to 4 in the power rankings is because of the strength of schedule. The only real competition that Clarkson really has run into this year was against that Downing team from California during the Avistas that I didn't get to watch, and they ended up winning that one by 5. Just the level of play in the GSL is a little bit lowered, so going into that next week with regionals, it's a little scary. So Sunday, we will know where we play and all that, but it's a little worrisome knowing that GSL is not up to the standard as some of these other leagues across the state of Washington, and it's going to be a little scary. But I think this team is very deep. They can do a lot of things, and they don't miss a beat pulling people off the bench.
Yeah, Debbie Sabota has a fantastic squad over there for you guys with the Bandoms, and I've been able to see them nearly a handful of times for the Avista tournament, and then of course Golden Throne. Lewiston's girls were a bit down this year, going through all of the changes that they had. But I will say, when Clarkson gets into a rhythm, I don't know if there's many teams that are going to go out there and beat them. But like you said, sometimes they can relax a little bit because they haven't played that competition, and sometimes when you have these blowouts, you get punched in the mouth that first time right off the bat. It's a test to see how they're going to answer to that. They've done that all year long. Anytime they do actually get punched in the mouth, their second halves have been phenomenal. But like you said, once they really get into the state tournament, I think, and really get tested, I'm very curious to see what the Bantams are able to do this year.
And what I think is exciting too is a little bit, and you know this because they come off of a state championship too, is seeing what the McCormick Mark girls do. Coming from transferring from Lapway into Clarkson, that just added a little bit more depth to that bench. And Jalen starting with Kendall, and it's taking some pressure off of Kendall. And you also see it's helping out with Lexi, and with the pressure with her, she's able to come off the bench and drop a 3 whenever. So it has gained a little bit with these girls, and to have a sophomore and freshmen on this team, it's just going to be huge.
Yeah. So we'll see what Clarkson is able to do, both boys and girls side, as they go through their district. Lewiston boys will start their district tournament on Friday. They're 14-7 on the year, 5-4 in league play. And if Lake City defeats Lakeland tomorrow, as I think everyone predicts, I have been told it will be Lewiston that will be the 4 seed in the Inland Empire League, which means they will go and travel the top seeded Coeur d'Alene Vikings Friday at 6:30 p.m. And it does look like no matter what, they will travel on Friday. If Lakeland's somehow able to pull off the upset, I believe that moves the Bengals up to the 3 seed. And then they would travel to Post Falls instead of Coeur d'Alene on Friday. But that will all get locked in tomorrow night. It was a wild game this last week for senior night as Lewiston hosted Lake City. and it was creating all these different tiebreakers. If Lewiston lost, they were guaranteed to be the 4th seed. If they won, it sounded like it was coming down to the 4th tiebreaker, because Post Falls, Lake City, and Lewiston are all kind of set to end up in a 3-way tie. It was going to come down to the 4th tiebreaker, which was a point differential against 5A Inland Empire League teams. And Lewiston, who beat Lake City by 9, needed to beat them by 3 points more to pass them in that point differential. And you could tell watching that game in the 4th quarter that Lake City and Lewiston knew all of these numbers and had things figured out, because Lake City just refused to foul. They were the ones playing prevent offense and really running the clock, just trying to make sure Lewiston didn't have a chance to get up to that point margin. And then near the end, Brooks pulled out his 3 seniors and just called it a game at that point, and just get yourselves ready for district play. So everyone kind of knew what was on the line going in, and it just kind of fell that way. We'll see what the Bengals could do. I talked to Kevin Driscoll, the principal for LHS, after that game, and to me, this is the closest all 4 teams have ever been. Which is great, because it's the last time Lewiston will be with those 3 schools. Again, a realignment next year. Post Falls, Lake City, Coeur d'Alene, they all move up to 6A. Lewiston will stay at 5A, and they'll be in that group with Moscow, Sandpoint, and Lakeland, which is so big for Lewiston as far as trying to compete for state titles. But very curious to see how things go. They play Friday at 6:30 p.m. They'll play again next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. It will be on the road, and hopefully it'll be for the district championship. If not, it'll be a loser out game, and we'll discuss that matchup a week from today when we have another Monday show, and see exactly where the Bengals set up. If they're able to make state, that'll start on Leap Day, February 29th, as they get ready to go. And of course, I won't be able to be there. So of course, they're finally going to make that run to state, because I can't make the trip. Do want to say, though, that the Idaho State girls state tournament start on Thursday. And while the Lewiston Bengals did not make it to that tournament, there are a lot of local teams that we just don't have the time, or we're 2 people. We don't get to go watch these teams as much as we get to go watch Lewiston and Clarkson, who we both work for. But we want to give them a shout out and wish them the best of luck. We'll have their recaps next Monday. But in the 2A state tournament, Grangeville is your number 1 seed. They will play Kellogg, of all teams, who ended up being the 8th seed. That one's Thursday at 2 p.m. In the Class 1A Division 1 state tournament, Prairie got the 5 seed. They'll take on Murtaugh at noon on Thursday. Lapway is the 3 seed. They will take on Valley at 7 p.m. That's the final game of that opening round down there. And then Class 1A Division 2, Deary got the 4 seed. They'll take on Mackey Thursday at noon. And then Kendrick's your 2 seed in that state tournament. They will take on Lador Thursday at 5 p.m. I wish all of those teams best of luck. Again, we don't know a ton about them, because, again, we're just 2 people. We can't go to all these games, especially right now. If this somehow turned into a great job and we traveled around, that'd be great. But it's just not at that position right now.
We did get to watch. I shouldn't say we. I did get to watch Grangeville the very first game of the Avista tournament before I made my exit during the Avista time. Looking with what Coach Barger does with these girls, they've got a great group of girls here. Very good chance that this team makes the run again in this one. And we've said almost all of these names last year. The only team that we really didn't bring up was Lador, who that is there. So that's the only one really that we didn't see in this bracket from last year. But every one of these teams have got a great chance. Lapway has done phenomenal things with the shift up in coaching this year and that. So looking forward to listening to a lot of these on the radio this weekend.
Yeah, and then we will bounce out and get into the boys brackets once we get going through there. I like how Idaho does it over Clarkson, where girls get their turn and then the boys will get theirs. It's not all wrapped up in one section, because then you might get pulled in 2 different places at the same time. So I appreciate how Idaho actually runs it Not I don't always agree with some of the way Idaho sets up things, but I do like how they do that. All right, let's get back into the national sports. Let's go right back to the Super Bowl. Something we did not get to in the first hour, as once again we run long, and that's what we do here. We're 170 episodes in, and we still can't, time a show to save our lives. But let's talk about the goofy stuff that goes along with the Super Bowl. There's a lot of people that go there to watch the game, and then there's people that show up to Super Bowl parties to watch the commercials, the halftime show. I know a lot of people were doing shots every time they saw Taylor Swift. I'm getting tired of people whining about that. People are going, I'm so sick of Taylor Swift. She was on your screen for less than a minute. All right. Mm-hmm. You survived. You know what I'm tired of? That one shopping commercial that kept popping up where you could buy low things and buy like a billionaire. Fubu, whatever. I don't care. It was the same commercial and they showed it 8 times.
Yeah.
They spent $1 billion at the Super Bowl, and I still don't know what their company is, and I don't like them. They got a non-customer for life from their commercials. But I'll ask you, scale of 1 to 10, just rate the overall experience of the commercials this year. Was it a better crop, a bad crop? Where were we at?
For me, it had to be probably more in the middle. I wasn't super impressed with some of them. Some of them I really liked, but I was kind of. I would be in the 40% good commercials compared to
But
only 3 of them that stood out to me.
But that feels like it's better than it's been the last few years. Like ever since we lost the crop of Doritos and Mountain Dew coming out with 2 or 3 different commercials each, and Bud Light coming out with 3 different commercials, and we always had our mainstays for about a decade and a half. Pepsi always had commercials. Mm-hmm. They all seem to have went, all right, we're out. And they've just straight disappeared from the Super Bowl. So now we're relying on other companies. I was actually pleasantly surprised with this year's crops, though it was thin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we talked about Denise and I, she sat there during the entire Super Bowl. Dad come up, we watched it together, and we were all shocked at how little there was of the food. Like you were saying, the food commercials was mm-hmm. not a huge amount with those, and so that was one of the things on the board that Eric and Harry were running. What kind of commercials are we going to see? And it ended up being service commercials. So I'm 100% right with you. Denise and I said, where's the Doritos commercial? Where's the Pepsi? They've all went to the wayside. So for me, it boiled down to a couple of different commercials that I really mm-hmm. enjoyed. The Uber Eats commercial with Jennifer Aniston was funny. I did enjoy
where everybody
that
was
one.
Forgetting things. Yeah.
The Tina Fey one, hiring the body double for her for Booking.com. I thought that was cute. It was on the cute side. How about Arnold?
That's my commercial of the year. 100% my commercial of the year.
I love that. And then watching Mr. Samoa dance with the T-Mobile guys, setting up his home internet commercial to What a Feeling. I was trying to remember the song that they based it to. That was before your time that song came out, but
that is the wrong dancing commercial that you bring up. But no, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and State Farm absolutely stole the whole night. Mm-hmm. Commercial wise, there's a longer version of it online, but with making fun of Arnold and not being able to say his R's and just going with that route over and over and over and running it into the ground. Absolutely loved it. But the one commercial that you didn't bring up that I absolutely just loved was the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, Tom Brady. Tom Brady was in like 4 different commercials. He is enjoying retirement, but just all of the weird jokes that were going on, and Affleck trying to get J-Lo to get him on her new album or whatever, and telling Matt Damon that he said he would do anything, and Matt's like, well, I think we pushed it too far at this point. I love that interaction in the commercial between Ben and Matt. I absolutely loved that commercial. We also saw some weird placement of commercials. Robert Kennedy Jr. ran the weirdest political Super Bowl ad I've ever seen in my life. Literally, there were multiple people on my Twitter feed that basically went, "What was that?" right after that commercial. The weird Mayo Cat commercial, I absolutely hated. It drove me nuts. And we got, oh, now I'm trying to, we got the movie ones right at the beginning. Like, it really felt like, different events. Like, I'm a gamer, so the Game Awards it's not the Super Bowl of gaming, but it's the big event they throw at the end of the year, give out awards for the games that came out that year. And we all watch because we want to see the world premieres of all these games that are going to come out for the next year or so. That's kind of how the first quarter felt for the Super Bowl. It's like, all right, you're here to watch the Super Bowl, but here are all these movies you're going to watch. So we got Wicked, which looked pretty good. And we got another Planet of the Apes, which has the dumbest title I've ever seen. And I feel like we've had 87 Planet of the Apes movies at this time. And then we got Deadpool, which was just a teaser to, hey, go actually watch the real trailer, because if we put the real trailer on the Super Bowl, they would kick it off the airways extremely quickly, because it is not safe for children, that's for sure. But what did you think of movies kind of taking over that first quarter?
I didn't see anything that for me didn't really jump out. Maybe it's just me being involved with everything else nowadays. I don't get to watch many movies, but I there might have been a couple of them I might want to go to, but nothing that says, "Hey, I got to watch this now." So,
and then,
Beyonce
tried to break the. I was going to say Beyonce tried to break the internet. It didn't happen in the commercial. It didn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
The
one I was disappointed in. I always look forward to them. I just wasn't impressed with the E-Trade babies this year. They're playing pickleball. Okay, but
pickleball's super popular right now, man.
It is, but I'm like, I would have went a little bit more somehow, but that one just seemed boring to me.
It was fine. A halftime show with Usher. You're a big Usher fan, right?
I like some of his music. Yes, I found it quite hard to listen to. I mean, I even heard kids at school talk about it. It was very quiet. It wasn't very loud. He sang a few good songs, but I don't know. I felt towards the end he was lip syncing. I really, Denise and I looked at each other. We never saw him sing in a few spots that is normally his.
But could that have been because the audio was having issues, so they aborted and just went to a different track? So I think a lot of those times you have to have an audio track that you've pre-recorded and you're ready to go just in case something goes wrong. You can't just have the halftime show pause because the microphone doesn't work.
Right.
And I really think that you could tell early on it was Usher singing. Alicia Keys was trying to sing because she had that one note at the beginning that she kind of missed. But I thought their duet was fine. But I'm with you. It kind of started flat for me, and them starting on the field and trying to do all the dance performances. That's what Usher does. It just kind of made it difficult for him to also sing. And that's why it was a bit too quiet. And I also think that's why they then brought in the extra track. And then it's a performance. I don't care if you're a good singer or not for the halftime show. I don't care if you sing live. Like those that got all mad about Ashley Simpson lip singing at Saturday Night Live. Who cares? It's a silly performance. It's not, you didn't pay money to go listen. And then it ends up being, a lip syncing thing. This is just a giant event that they're out there to entertain and have a good time for 15 minutes. So them lip syncing I have no problem with.
So I'm going to ask you this. I saw somebody talking about this today on social media. They said this was probably the second best performance in Super Bowl history behind Prince. And I agree with you. Not even close. I can think of 5 other ones right off the top of that were a lot better than this one.
No.
Behind Prince. Prince was
Prince probably has the top. I mean,
yeah.
There's a bad bracket episode on Super Bowl halftime shows that we may hit next year. And we'll get into all of that. But no, Was the Usher performance bad? No, it was
No.
totally fine. I just think with the sound quality they had at the beginning, his music choice at the beginning, I thought was a bit slower and a bit tough to get into. That by the time they started getting in all of the cameos and the Little Johns and the Ludas and all that stuff, and they really started to hype the crowd, I started looking at my watch going, this halftime show feels like it's been going on for 40 minutes.
I thought the exact same thing.
Because the first half just kind of drug for me. So once they got into the goofiness, and I know you wrote in our notes, you make fun of him roller skating. I thought that segment was unique and original and awesome. And the fact that he did the slide between the guy's legs live and was able to nail it, that kind of stuff, that's what I want to see at my halftime performance. Have a good time. I did see one person tweet out during it that the people that really like Usher were getting out of breath because he was like, I think he played 47 songs in 15 minutes. He just flipped song after song after song after song after song. And you're like, wait, what song are we doing right now? But it was a fine performance. Those that think it was the best, it's not. I'm sorry, unless you're a huge Usher fan. I need to go back and look at a list, but I can't. I don't even know the first one I would put it ahead of. If you went down the list of performers, I would try to. I'll look this up real quick and we'll go through it real quick. But talk about the Hall of Famers that we got announced before the Super Bowl.
So we did get the Hall of Fame class of 2024 announced, and let's start first off with the senior inductees and Randy Gradishar, linebacker for the Denver Broncos back in the 70s. He makes it in. Also on that senior inductee, really excited for this one, Steve McMichael, Chicago Bear, from that unbelievable team in 1985.
And hopefully he's well enough to be able to do some kind of a speech. I know he's going through a lot of medical stuff, but
and with his ALS he has now, and so it's going to be extremely tough. And also making it for the first time on the ballot, Julius Peppers. Excited about that one, what that man has done. The first year on the ballot made it. Then you look at Dwight Freeney, who was a freak at what his position gets in on the second year of his. Andre Johnson, Houston receiver for many years. For him to get put on this ballot and make it, I was a little shocked but what he did with the different quarterbacks that he had to deal with in Houston all the time, for him to make it, hats off to him. I think my shock, and I know there's a lot of people that disagree with me about this, but Devin Hester, yes, he was one of the premier return guys. He does make it in his third chance at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
I'm
the GOAT
in the return game, but that's
100%.
about it. And then Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis making it in his fifth appearance on the ballot.
Is Joe Montana in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, because he was good at quarterback, right?
Yeah, but
was he a good running back? Was he a good wide receiver? Was he a good kick returner? No, but he was a good quarterback.
But we're talking about a returner who gets how many touches per game?
He was a receiver too.
But he didn't put near the numbers up.
Did Joe Montana ever score on the very first play of a Super Bowl?
We're going to put him in on a very first play of a Super Bowl.
No, on the rest of his career too.
I mean,
they've changed rules now where no one's ever going to break the stuff he did because they don't want the kick return stuff. But
hence the comeback player of the year award.
Yeah. Joe Flacco.
Oh, we're wacko.
Playing for the Jets is worse than death. It's 100% proven now because DeMar Hamlin came back from death and he can't win a comeback player of the year over somebody who had to play for the Jets. That's a true comeback. Geno Smith was not a comeback.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco played for the Jets and still came back and had a good couple of games in the NFL. That is a true comeback story.
We didn't even talk about it. But how about your boy McCole Hardman that gets cut by the Kansas City, goes to the Jets, and then leaves and goes back to then catch, after having 3 touchdowns in last year's Super Bowl, to get the game-winning
And
touchdown.
not a
this Super Bowl.
single thank you from Robert Taylor. It's just depressing. It happens all the time with the Jets. Before we get into these other sports and we wrap up this show, I wanted to go back real quick because it does not take me many years to come up with a Super Bowl halftime show that I would rank lower than Usher. I will have Robert play this game real quick. So last year was Rihanna. Rihanna put on a pretty good show, especially performing while pregnant. You give her props there. The year before that was Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, all of them. That one's far better than the Usher performance. But the year before that was The Weeknd.
I still don't know all of his music. I know basically one song of his, so
Well, and
I would agree with that.
The Weeknd got hit hard because it was the COVID year, so most of his performance was in all the mirrors and stuff, which they brought back for the pregame. The football teams ran through the Weeknd tunnel before they hit the field. I'll give them that. So yeah, the Weeknd would just a couple of years ago. I would rank below Usher.
So with that being said, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Not Snoop Dogg and Dre, and not Prince. Who would be the top concert or halftime show that you, hands down, would
I love
watch
Bruno.
again?
I love Bruno Mars. I'm shocked he just fell off the face of the earth. Like, I know he's still coming out with music, so I hear it every so often, but he was it for a few years, and his concert was fantastic. I want to say like Red Hot Chili Peppers showed up for his concert too, which was a weird mix. But yeah, Bruno Mars for me would be third behind the two you just talked about.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some other sports as we try to wrap up the show. Just rapid fire questions for you right now.
Okay.
Trevor Bauer trying to get back into Major League Baseball. He went to Japan last year. Obviously, he was accused of some horrendous things with a woman he was having relations with, that the woman had come out and said that things had just escalated too farther than she went. Things have now come out since then where it does look like it could have been a setup job. He has been acquitted of our charges, at least. Again, I'm not going to say that she's 100% lying or anything like that. That's all for public opinion and courts. I don't know 100% of the truth. I'm never going to say I knew 100% of the truth. However, he has been acquitted. All the charges have been dropped. Is there a team that should take a chance on Trevor Bauer, who says he wants to just come back for the league minimum and then have incentive laden contract? So, hey, if I come back and I play the way I did, then you can pay me a little bit of money. But if I suck, it only costs you the minimum. Is there a team out there that should take a chance?
I think there could be a few teams that would easily take advantage of that. And with that being said, you look at some of them who didn't play well, that could reach for these teams or be that team that puts them back over the edge. I don't see him in a big market, but maybe sliding into, and I hate saying it, but maybe sliding into an Oakland team or a Colorado team.
No.
Some of these,
you're not going to take on the headache of a PR nightmare that could be Trevor Bauer, depending on where things go, if you're a team that's not in it. Trevor Bauer also is not going to go to a LA or a New York or Chicago or the big market teams, like you said. Yeah. Honestly, and it scares me to say it, he would be the perfect fit for the Baltimore Orioles or the Tampa Bay Rays. Two teams that are on the cusp, ready to make that big push for a World Series. It's a smaller market. They're a team ready to win. San Diego Padres possibly too, but I think they're going in the wrong direction.
So maybe St. Louis. Maybe St. Louis.
Yeah. Just those that could use extra arms. The Yankees could really use an extra arm, but just New York is not the place for Trevor Bauer right now. But it'd be really interesting. Speaking of, some of the pitchers and catchers have already reported because of the way the beginning of this year is going, but it's that time. Pitchers and catchers are out there. How excited are you for Major League Baseball to come back?
I talked to a kid today at school, and he has been wearing his black New York Yankees hat, the solid black
Mhm.
Yankee hat. He is so excited to be done with talking about. And I asked him, I said, "How do you like your team?" He says he likes it this year. He wants this team to do good. But if you had to ask me which team with rotation, I LA. I think maybe LA.
Some good teams out there. We will break them down as we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season. We'll bring back our weekly power rankings as far as the show goes. We're not going to do the full ones like we did for the NFL, I don't think. But we'll see how we feel in 2 months. Gonzaga got a big win, their first quad one victory of the year. They upset Kentucky. A lot of people felt like if Gonzaga did not win the WCC conference tournament, they were not going to make the national tournament as an at-large. Does a win against Kentucky change your mind there?
They have played, don't have the depth as much as they have in the past. I think this helps their a bid just a little bit, but if they sneak in, they are not going to be a top 10 in any region. They'll be lucky if they're a top 13 in any region.
That's fair. You want to talk about this silliness that happened in golf?
Yeah, lots of things that went on at the WM Phoenix Open this year. Let's talk about the winner first of all. Nick Taylor comes back from 3 strokes down to Charlie Hoffman to force a playoff, and he wins in the second hole. Hits a huge putt, but that wasn't the main story coming out of this one. We know that WM Phoenix is known for their loud and boisterous fans, especially on 16. There was a fan this weekend that fell off of the third floor of the tower there on 16, non-life-threatening injury. But we also look at some of the fans were a little on the rowdy side, and a few players took it to heart and to the point of yelling at some of them. Billy Horschel, Zach Johnson, Billy Horschel basically yelling at the fans and actually yelling actually the F word at a fan because of the way that they were treating the guy, who he was playing with, and I don't remember who he was playing with, and it basically told him it was his effing job and he needed to basically shut up. Same thing with Zach Johnson and that. So things happened at the tournament. They cut off selling of booze. They even didn't let more people in past about 2:00 on Saturday afternoon. So I'm thinking they're going to have PGA is going to have to look at doing some changes to this tournament, especially after how things went down this past weekend.
So you're telling me that the PGA created a tournament with a hole on it that was unlike anything else, promoted it as it's not like anything else you see in golf, blew it out of proportion and had things get even rowdier and rowdier. You see Joel Damon with his video that you can see on his Netflix special with the beers, and you're going way over the top and everything's crazy. And now you want them to be quiet when you're over a shot. Now, don't get me wrong. Fans need to stay respectful and not go over the top when you're jeering a player or saying insults or anything like that. But you cannot create that atmosphere.
Oh, I agree.
Please get loud and get rowdy and over the top. And this is the craziest hole in all of golf. And then when somebody's over a shot, tell them, now be quiet.
Yep.
It's impossible.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to have to change it, you're going to have to get rid of that entire, all the grandstands there, change the culture just to be another golf hole. But PGA created that 100%. Also, shout out to Marshall Kent, Yakima kid, who won at the PBA Illinois Classic. That was a rough tournament to watch. By the way, I love the best of 7 series for match play instead of what they normally do. Adds a lot more drama and a lot of fun. Do that more, PBA, and televise it more, please. That'd be great. Daytona 500 is this Sunday. 6 drivers have the exact same odds at 12-1. Your favorites, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, and Chase Elliott. Who wins it all?
I'm going out, but I'm going to say Brad Keselowski. I think he takes a win this weekend.
I'm going to go with one outside of this group. Give me Kyle Larson. I want Chase Elliott to win, get a big bounce back after his injury-laden season last year where just nothing went well for him. See if he can bounce back. But go with the Hendrick boy. Give me Kyle Larson to get the win at Daytona. That is going to do it for this episode of What Do You Want?
I just want to say it's nice to be back on the red side of the screen. Just saying.
You do know you can set yourself up on the red side of the screen even when I am not here. This is not the hosting side. This is the correct side and the good side and the winning side. And I'm glad that while I'm gone, you're like, oh, that side looks awesome, and I want to be on that side. I just don't want Randy to know it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But you can host from that side. It's okay. Yes, we're so glad to be back. So glad to do this show with Robert once again. Again, next week we will be back on a Monday episode as I will have district tournaments on Tuesday, and we just want to do the show together.
Mm-hmm.
It's been too long. 170th episode of the R&R Sports Report. Don't forget to check out the 6th episode of Bad Brackets. Just search Bad Brackets on YouTube. It was the best Super Bowl moments. Robert Hagan, Eric Watkins, Harry Broadhurst, they were all on the show. We had a lot of fun. Next week's episode is best 90s sitcoms. We have got that one recorded and in the bag. It was Eric Watkins, Harry Broadhurst, and Robert Taylor making his Bad Brackets debut. And Robert Taylor was introduced to the Rancid Randy and the Crazy Brackets that I put together. The week after that, we'll do best Pokemon, and my son is going to yell at me. I can guarantee it. We're going to have so much fun on those. So go check those out. Have a lot of fun. But that is going to do it for this R&R Sports Report. Again, thank you so much to Sam Stockton and to Caelyn Orlandi for joining us on the show. Glad to get some guests back, get back into the rhythm of doing interviews. We will get more people back on the show and get back into our regularly formatted program that we like to do here. But for Robert Hagan, my name is Randy Isbell. This is the R&R Sports Report. And until next Monday, we are